So thanks for joining. As we were waiting for the newcomers, we'll just have a quick view on the subject today. So we have our three pillars that we'll detail for today: ENTRELEC Solutions, and more particularly a focus on power solutions and EFG, BSS and EV charging. We have a new product, NPI, continuous tubings, and Tom will make specific topics on robotics. And then wiring solution on cable glands. We have recently released these products and we'll show you how to select some more easily. And wiring Ferrules and thermal blocks, and we'll just end up on some t.com tips and tricks at the end of the agenda. So it's time to start. So welcome everybody to this session. A quick introduction about the sub-vertical. So just to remind you a few important facts about our sub-vertical. So as you know, we have four pillars activities within our activity. I would qualify three of them are historical, starting from terminal and splices, where we produce connections, expertise in connection for wire and cables. ENTRELEC Solutions, where you will find mostly the ENTRELEC. So we'll find here under the scope thermal blocks, power distribution blocks, all these kind of connections. Then we have also our historical portfolio identification solutions, where we do provide on the market for a long time solutions for identification of wire and cables, labels, custom labels, and also all the printing solution that goes with them. And then the fourth pillar that you see on the right hand side is the wiring and cabinet solutions and wire management. That's pretty new in our offering, and the idea there is to develop some other products and to enlarge our portfolio. So even if we enlarge our portfolio in our three historical activities, we are specifically developing solutions to go along with our products within electrical cabinets. So basically we have a lot of NPI that we released in 2022, cable glands, wiring duct, but also rebranded products that we supply to the electrical market at that time. So the idea for us is to become a premier provider of connection solution. We are an expert in connections, but also in labeling and safety for industrial electrical systems. So globally is to become the one-stop shop for electrical engineers that are looking for solutions. And more specifically, when we are looking for ergonomics in connections, we have the experience with TNS, with thermal blocks, we have the large experience identification portfolio. And we are developing this wire management solution and cabinet solutions. And we are pushing, which is also new, a safety solution. So we already provide in our portfolio different products for safety solutions, and we are also developing in the future those type of applications. So now it's time to Abhijit will present you these power solutions that we do provide for the market.
And in this session, we will cover the power portfolio and the applications. So power portfolio has 7 types of different product families aimed at 2 core applications. First is equipment control and second is power distribution. In equipment control, we have SNK, RGW, stud type and railway stud type power block. And in power distribution, we have DBL, DBLK and compact power block. Now power distribution is more focused and aligned with the AFGs and the application that we are trying to enter. And to establish stronger footprints here, we have initiated 2 expansion projects. First is in DBL, where existing range is only up to 500 amps and we will be extending it up to 950 amps. And for compact power block, the existing range is up to 1 pole 3 connection output and we will be extended up to 6 connection with of course different variety of colors. Now let us take a quick overview of all the 3 product families that we have. And to begin with, we will begin with DBL. It is used for power distribution purpose and used primarily in branch circuits. And it is available from 80 amps to 500 amps range, and this can be an ideal solution for replacing your conventional bus bars inside the control panel. Now let us talk about what are the 3 fundamental functions of DBL. First is single phase splitter, wherein individual DBLs can be used for single phase application connection and multiple splitting can be done at the bottom of the product at the output end. Second is multi-pole splitter, wherein DBLs are made with modular function and can be stacked together with each other, and the stackable unit can be used for 3-phase incoming input connection and then multiple tappings can be done at the bottom of the product. And third important function is a grouping function, wherein applications like solar, applications like PV modules, multiple incomings are grouped together to form one combiner output. And you can see DBL 400 PV is the specific version that we have launched just to cater to the solar and PV module application. So these are the three fundamental functions of DBL. Now let us quickly understand what kind of benefit we offer to the customer. So first and foremost, it's a 50% reduction in space with respect to the conventional bus bar. Second is up to 70% reduction in time in installation of the DBL inside the panel. And third most significant benefit that we are offering, that it is the most safe connection system inside the panel, thanks to its IP20 rating and fully protected and covered body design, and also the design of the screw, which will not allow the conductor to be damaged by screwing and unscrewing and creating tabs. So again, it is improving the overall life of the cable, and it is again improving overall life of the connection in the panel. Now let us switch our focus to DBLK, and I would say DBLK has a similar functionality of distribution of power into the secondary circuits, and it is available in the range of 76 amps to 125 amps. The basic difference, and before that I would say DBLK is more advanced version of DBL, and the difference between DBL and DBLK is a type of connection that we have employed here. And DBL are more with the screw connection, and DBLK are designed with the PI spring loaded technology. So to enable fast, tool-free, secure and more efficient connection system while doing distribution and the tapping. DBLK is also the safest connection with IP20 protection available, entirely covered product, and it is more suitable for the vibration-free application like metros. Now let's switch our focus to the third product category which we have, which is compact power block. And as the name suggests, it's compact in nature and size and positioned at the sweet spot between terminal block, power terminal block especially, and the distribution block. And compact power block is available up to 500 amps. Here we can see two basic functionalities of a compact power block. First is it can be used as 1-to-1 and 2-to-2 connection for circuit continuity. And second is power distribution, wherein you can create 3 tappings out of one input and goes inside the secondary circuit. So now we have understood the overview of each of the product. Now let's understand the application area of the portfolio. Now, as we can say, our entire portfolio is focused over and above control panel. And now control panel comes in different types, different form factor, different rating and different specification, and basically it depends on two fundamental factors. First is the type of load equipment that control panel is supposed to keep energized, and second is the quantum of the power that they need to offload to the secondary distribution circuits. And here we can say variety of panels like HTA panels, LT panels, automation panels, EV panels, FG panels can be efficiently made and built with our range of power portfolio. Now let us understand where exactly our product can go in real-time control panel, because when we say control panel, it's a bigger aspect, and where exactly our product fits in the control panel, that is also very vital to understand. So basically, we come at a play at a very downstream of a breaker. Breaker can be MCCB, RCD, and load transfer switches, especially in branch circuit. So wherever you are trying to identify the application for our products, look for breakers and look for transfer switches. Now let us understand the first image, where incoming of the MCCB is used with the type of compact power block. This can be also altered with the help of power terminal block if the wire is below 35 square mm. So both can be switched together. Now second image, you can see the number of output tabs of each of the MCCBs has been grounded or has been connected, terminated at the bottom of the panel, wherein you can see stud type terminal blocks can be employed here. The third application you can see is the outgoing of the breaker, where each of the individual outgoing has been connected to the dual terminal block, I would say, and again those terminal block has been shorted with the shorter link. So that is one way to do it. Another way or smart way to do it is to replace two individual terminal blocks and connect with one single individual compact power block, and this way you can reduce the space, reduce the time and reduce the cost of the panel builder. Now let us understand the downstream of the transfer switch, wherein flat bus bar panel has been employed here, and we can see the tappings have been made for connection, further connection, and made with screw type and stud type connections. And here again it can be converted to the equivalent DBLs of flat entry bus bars, and this system can be done again very efficiently. Second is again you can see the output of the load breaker switches, wherein we have stud type terminal blocks and can be employed for the further distribution of the power. Now let us understand where our actual DBL applications are coming inside the panel. And as you see in DBL, we have several versions that are made for round cable and several versions that are made for flat entry bus bar. And here you can see the feeder circuit bus bar that is directly entered into the DBL for further splitting. Now, second image you can see is solar PV combiner module, in which this particular application requires grouping of several incomers and to create one combiner output. And here you can see the red ones are input connected to the DBL. This is especially DBL 400 PV, wherein we have 14 incomers and one outgoing. And this particular product has been especially designed for those kind of application, and this is perfectly doing its job for grouping application in solar and PV modules. Now, if you can see the third image in automation panel, especially the downstream of the MCCB is used for one phase splitter application, and with 11 connection DBL has been employed here to give further tapping to the next circuits. Now the fourth application we can see is energy storage system. In energy storage system we have energy conversion units and we have battery storage units, and this particular DBL that we have employed is in energy conversion units to load to the inverters. Now I would like to highlight one important use case study that we have developed, and these are three-phase neutral boxes that has been employed majorly for commercial usage and for some of the industrial usage. And those TPN boxes are essentially made with bare and neutral bars with stud and terminal, and this we have replaced with the DBLK. Now, what are the three benefits that we are offering to the customer and the user is, first and foremost, the time that has been employed here, and we can say almost 80% reduction in installation time thanks to DBLK's PI spring method, which has effortlessly executed the tapping activity, and wherein if you talk about the screw and the lug type method, wherein rewiring and reinserting of the wire could take a lot of time, and this we have reduced up to 80% reduction in time. Second is we have created safest connection inside the VTPN. As this product is IP20 protected, fully covered, we have eliminated the risk of short circuit and overheating inside the panel. This kind of risk was entirely associated with the open type and screw type neutral bars. Now third is our DBLK are with pre-numbered cavities and pre-marked, and this gives better assessment of cable positioning to the installers and the users who are installing the cables inside the VTPN boxes. Now let's see where we can find application for compact power blocking panel. So I would say you can find the application for compact power block where capacity matters. And if you talk about building control panel, HVAC control panel, those control panels are relatively shorter in size and smaller in size compared to the HT and LT panel. So you can see essentially compact power block has been utilized here for both of the application. Also you can see the main power control cabinet, the section of the control cabinet can be powered with the help of compact power block again. And if you talk about the switchboard with cable sizing more than 35 square mm, where also we can use a compact power block very efficiently. Now we have also identified new age applications like EV infra, and when we talk about EV infra, especially for DC multi-gun charger system, where we can see 1-to-1 and 2-to-2 connection output has been made with the similar product of compact power block, and this can be very well future application for compact power blocks as we see it. And I think it's time we would like you to all showcase what are the use cases that we have developed in the recent past and what are the connection problems that we have solved at the customer end with the help of our TBL.
So now it's we're making a smaller deep dive into some of the application of EVI infrastructure. So here we use some elements from the very well designed EVI and AFG's presentation, but just to make a focus more particularly on our products. So what you see on the top here are typically an installation where how to the batteries into a car. So you have AC solution and DC solution. So there are two different technologies on the market, different standards. But globally, we have to keep in mind that we have AC and DC systems. DC systems allowing to have much more power, so they are mostly used in public, recharge, and AC is more used at home most of the time, which is in this case, but the power is lower when you're on AC. So what you have to keep in mind is that the best potential for our product is mostly on DC stations, and this is where we have the power. Mostly the reasons is because there is high power being brought towards installation, and you could see that there are roughly two types of products on the market. One which is called standalones, where you are bringing the power in one single station with 1, 2, sometimes 3 different charging stations on the same post, Or you have now one more, because the power increase, you have what we mean a main power distribution panel, main switch, and then after we have some satellites, and then these actually are fed up by the power central unit, and then you have 10, depending, starting from 2 to 10 different satellites that will distribute to the car and be able to recharge each car individually. And these now are used for high power stations. So to understand where our product goes, we have found some different schematics on installation. So this one is a schematic from a DC charging stations, and you see that you have the different satellites or different point of distribution for the battery of the car. And then here we can see that we have different functions we can use from our products. The first one will be the splitter, so we're going to use distribution blocks for that. And there is a need to distribute the power. So you see this is the power coming from the grid, going to the inverter and being converted to DC. And then there will be a need to distribute to each individual satellite, for example. And in this case, you will need some kind of a splitter to be able to make these connections. And you can use the DBL or DBLK power distribution to do that. Second point, you need power connections, as Abhijit was mentioning before. So you have different ways of doing it, either with compact power blocks if you need space, standard SNK series thermal blocks power for screw connection, or these one which are using terminal splices, terminals to be terminated, stud type. So depending on the solution of the customer, you can propose different technologies, and you will see that you will be able to connect the different power parts from the grid or from the inverter on the output of the inverter. You have most of the time those products being represented there. The last function, number 3, that you have here on the screen is particularly interesting, and it's something you can propose along with these power blocks. Most of them are equipped with what we call an extra connection. We call it a tap connection, because this means that we'll take a little part of the power from the main source and we will drive it to a controller, monitoring device, because most of these devices have control, and they just control the quality of network. They need some feedback from the network, and then you need to introduce to feed to the electronic, and then you need on these power blocks the possibility to tap the power and to survey the voltage that you have on the line, and that's what you can do with those products. So altogether, these are 3 functions that you can use into it. So this is the theory. Now we can give you some examples of installation. So this one, we use it in our newsletter recently. It's a win that we got in E3Go in Taiwan, who is a manufacturer of DC stations, globally stations, EV solutions for Taiwan. It was one of the main installer and at the very beginning of the installation of DC charging into Taiwan, and they are looking for solutions for being able to connect flat conductors, because they had flat conductors coming out of their inverters. They needed about 10 connections, and then they also needing some long time reliability, because we are installing this in the field. And you see that we are producing a high capacity charging from 180 to 250 kilowatts. And the particular need they got, and this is also particular to EV charging, sometimes to be able to size the power. What the customers are doing is they are piling up in parallel different inverters. So they are, if it's 180, maybe they will use 2 or 3, depending of what the installation. And as they need more power, they will put more inverter, and then provide this to the satellite stations, and then this gives us the possibility to pile up the different and to increase the power. So to do that, you need not anymore a splitter, but a concentrator. So you will get the power from the different inverters, and after you will feed to the charging station. So we have been able to provide this solution here, where you have a flat cable coming from the bottom, and then being able to after split the power of splitting from the different inverters and regrouping them, and then provide the power to the charging stations and satellites. So the winning point there is that we can mount them on the plate or DIN rail. This one, there was a need for the plate mounting. There's a removable cover, so this means that you see that the power is coming from, this one is coming from the top, and then after you are following from the bottom. The plug can be completely reversed because the cover can be reversed, and it's really seems to be simple, but it's very winning point at customer place because you have all the marking the right directions and you can mount it wherever if you have input from the top or from the bottoms. Here is another example. Since in Europe, EV charging, Kempower is a leader in Europe for producing EV station. You see that they have produced last year about 5,000 power units and more than 10,000 satellites, and are developing a lot. So we have this system of power units and also satellite there, and you have seen the picture before from Abidjan here. So same thing, there's a need to have this flat cable coming from the main, from the inverter, and then to split the power behind. And then the DBL 500, once again, was a winning point, being able to provide that solution with the right rating. Most of the time you have to keep in mind that 1500 volts is the rating for high power DC stations, and that's why also the rating of the DBL is very important into this extent. And the last winning point, you have to know that it's possible. For this customer more particularly, we have made an adaptation of our packaging. You see that we have a packaging which is quite large, and also a pre-marking, so it's ready to be used in the panel, adapted to the customer needs. So let's finish on this EDI charging, and we just wanted to make also a small focus on BESS, battery energy storage systems. So here, once again, there will be the theory. So here we put some of our structure that are used in BESS. So usually you have a source of power, which is mostly renewable when we are talking about battery management systems. And you have what I call a power conversion system, which is usually a battery of inverters, which are bi-directional. So this means that depending of when you are feeding the battery systems and when you want to feed the substation system, the grid, then it will convert the power on both sides. And you have to keep in mind that our products, the potential for products, is mainly in the power conversion system, because there's a lot of power and things going on for power here, and for sure the battery management system, so where you manage how the battery will be charged. This is where we will have potential. So same thing, we will be close to central solar inverters, because most of the time we have the inverters for solar application to be able to be used in conjunction with battery management systems. We have the string solar inverters, and we have the power conversion system and battery systems. To be noticed that we have less application into what we call the residential, and almost no application in residential BSS, because they are small installation, and we have, let's say, average middle potential for smaller power installation there. So just to finish, wanted to show you some example of schematic again, where you can find the product. So you find again the grouping, the splitting, the connection, and the tapping functions. And here again, you can see that you have a needs for power connections here. So it will be typically using this compact power block SMK or stud type. You have, when you have on the solar, you will have a combiner box that will combine the different strings, and you need to combine the signals to be able to supply to the inverter. You need sometimes the tapping functions to be able to control the insulation fault monitoring, for example here. So this one will be used to measure these defaults. Then power connections again to connect to the AC side. And what I wanted to show is this one on the right hand side, because this is typical schematic, very interesting. So you have once again the solar strings that provide power, so you need to regroup them all together. So that's the combiner box here. Then you need the DBL to be able to regroup all the signals. Then after you have regrouped the first time, you need to regroup again to feed the inverter, so you will need eventually another grouping there. When you enter in the inverter, you see that you have a lot of inverter in parallel. So here you have 4 inverters. Same thing as before, you just put them together depending on the power you need for the station. But in this case, you will need to split. So then you will need to split again the power. And then when you go to the AC section, you are grouping again to supply. So all this needs mean that you will need at one point a lot of grouping, degrouping functions, and this is where our products can do the job. So this is very interesting because it gives us a lot of potential for that. And here, an example of application for in India with BESS, which is provided by GE Renewable. And then this one we are not having application for the power conversion unit, but here in the reservoir control, which is actually the battery management systems. And we have here the needs for power distribution to replace those products. And same thing, there's needing for high service, lead time in this case, technical performance, because we are sending this in different countries, so we needed some companies that recognized and certified worldwide. And then we are able to win on the fact that we could provide this product that was meeting all the specs. So this is the ending of this presentation on power solutions subject. Just to help you, we have regrouped all the tools because we have a lot of collaterals and tools around power solutions. We have presentations specifically on those products. Ready, Set, Goes because we have few NPIs this year, videos. We have an active campaign here on power solutions until the end of the month. Thanks for your attention. I hand over to Tom, that will now talk about identification solutions.
Yeah, so in this section we'll talk about continuous tubing. We do have a new product introduction where we are introducing coloured tubing on our continuous range, but also we'll talk about some of the other applications where you can use labelling and identification solution for robotic arms, etc., the AFG. So if we kick off again, so what is identification tubing? So for those of you that are not familiar with identification sleeves and tubes, these are identification heat shrink tubes that is used to identify wires and cables, but mainly in cable harnesses. They are printable. TE actually is a pioneer of heat shrink tubing in general, but with our range, this is the printable identification range of heat shrink tubing. Now, we do have a very similar process to the standard heat shrink identification, the standard tubing from TE, but our identification tubes have been tested. The actual formulation and the production of our heat shrink tube is slightly different because we have to has to be very flat, has to be very obviously run through the printers, and the actual tube in itself has to adhere to the ink. The ink has to be transferred onto the identification tube in itself, and that's the whole point obviously of this product. So with continuous tube lengths, as I've mentioned, there's nothing new from TE before. We did have a ladder format, it's called a System 6 format, but with the continuous tube format, the customers can create their own custom length marker. So that's from 5mm up to 3 meters now in length on identification marker. That is completely printable, we can print completely on it. Part of it, they can actually vary the length as required. The printable tube can be used to identification along with insulation and protection of mechanical abuse. So as mentioned before, these are really identification, so they're printable, so you can print on this heat shrink tube, but clearly because of the length, because it's a continuous tube, you can also print, and the rest of it can be used for that mechanical protection against any abrasion or mechanical substance, etc. The continuous tube is compatible with automatic harnessing assembly machines. So a Comax machine, this is a machine used for printing tube, applying tube, and a completely automated harness build machine. We do have our heat shrink tube, identification tube compatible with these machines. And also now with the colors available, we can really use these colors to identify the wires, cables, as well as the print on top of this tubing as well. So what we've seen before is manufacturers using the black cable jackets, generally for cost, etc. So with a coloured tube or with the printable tube, you can now clearly identify each and every wire, cable, the uses, etc. It's used for complex harness, so the colour options can simplify the actual location of the identification sleeve itself. So for that, for an example, if a harness had, say, 5, 10, 20 identification sleeves that needed to be applied to each and every wire, if you used a blue sleeve for maybe the beginning of the harness and a red sleeve maybe for the end, then that speeds up the process and the actual operator, shortens the operator time in locating the sleeve, or the correct sleeve on the correct harness. So also colour trends we've noticed, generally green can be used for ground wires, orange battery power supplies, blue for Wi-Fi, etc. So that's kind of something that we've seen in the field, and if there was a coloured identification sleeve as well as notifying visually the colour, that also obviously has the print on that as well. So in our tubing family, we'll start off here with the RPS-CT, so that's the continuous tube version. The compound is a commercial grade. This is a good general commercial identification sleeve. To the right of that, there's TMS-SCE. This is the military grade compound material, again available in different colours now and as a continuous format. The DCT family is used for if the cable harness will be exposed to fluids, so general diesel fluid, chemical fluid. It's a good retardant of all fluids. And it's not just the sleeve in itself, it's also, as I mentioned, the identification on top of the sleeve itself. Down to the bottom left, there's HXCT, zero halogen. So zero halogen is halogen is a flame retardant. All of our tubing has high flame retardant compound. With removing the zero halogen, if this was to actually catch light, due to prolonged heat and flame exposure, when this does actually catch light, it will produce low toxic fumes and low gas. So it's good to be used within the rail industry, in confined spaces where there's a threat to life, if the toxic gases and stuff was to catch light. ZHDCT, this is a bit of a combination between DCT and HX. So it is a zero halogen heat shrink tube, but it also has fluid resistance as well, a more higher fluid resistance than the HX zero halogen tubing. And the final one at the end is HT, so this is a high temperature. Again, as the name suggests, it's the extremely high temperature rated heat shrink sleeve, but also it's a low outgassing. So if it was to be used in satellite, etc., any of the fluids or kind of organic material inside the tube on production won't be leaking out of the tube when exposed to a vacuum. So it's a low outgassing tube. Okay, whereabouts do we use continuous tube? So here we've focused mainly on robotics AFG. So if there's a need for equipment harnesses within a harsh environment, all of our tubing is really for harsh environment identification, wires and cables. Moving parts, these are, as I mentioned before, they can be used for mechanical abrasion, resistance. So again, if it's shock, wear in parts, not just the sleeve itself, obviously, the identification markings on the sleeve as well, all being tested. Color coding to help zone identification. So that's again, as we mentioned about the complexity with the length and size, the color coding can help the operators and harness manufacturers identify where the correct marker sleeve should be on the harness itself. And here you can just sort of see the control panel. We can use, there's a lot of identification in there, as we'll show, and also in the robot arm, the harnesses which need identification products within. Just to the right of this, I highlighted the RPS, or commercial grade identification sleeving, could be used within this particular instance for wire and cable identification. As you can see, self-extinguishing, you can see the operating temperature here. The supplied diameters as well, that's supplied before it's actually shrunk, and again, high product resistant to industrial fluids and chemicals, and it's a flexible tube. So this tubing is quite soft tube, very flexible, so it can conform around sort of if wires are bending, flexing, it will bend and flex with the wire, especially as you can see in a robotic arm, it will be doing a lot of repetitive moving, and you need the identification sleeving on the heat shrink tube within that harness to bend, flex and move with the compound, with the arm itself. What we can use, so inside the control panel, we'll look at maybe more labels. So number one, safety labels. We've got component identification labels, terminal block and wire cables, so that inside the control panel itself, identification, and custom labels. So these are completely custom labels, customized by the end customer, and we can print colored versions, sizes, all in-house within TE. On the robotic arm, again, we have not just a heat shrink sleeve as we mentioned before. Number one, we have ESSW, so again, these are pre-printed labels. We have HM labels, which are a high tack label, so for example, if they're going to be applied to a rough surface, it needs to have a high tack, high adhesive on the label itself. Rating labels, the colored printable identification sleeve, obviously inside, calibration labels and asset tracking labels as well. Okay, this is just the last slide, and we've made a lot of progress with updating catalogs. We have an online selection guide, so I'll just give you guys a quick overview now. If you want to see a little bit more, we have an online selection guide. In that, there's some links for technical data sheets, etc. Online ribbon selection guide as well, so we have a PDF version, but now we've launched an online ribbon selection guide. So ribbons are a big important solution. You must have the right ribbon connected to the right product, and you can use this online selection guide to do that. And with the continuous tube, the launch of the continuous tube in the colors formats, we've got a new catalog that's going to be available, and I hope that you guys will be able to see this very, very soon.
Cable glands, one of our NPI for 2022.
I will be discussing on two key NPI products, which is cable gland and Ferrules. So let's start with the first product, cable gland. So first question is, what is the cable gland? So cable glands are defined as a mechanical cable entry module. It ensures cable entry connection through any junction box or cabinet is secure. So there are many key functions. So there are two key functions I have highlighted here, which is very common and most important. First is protect the inside of enclosure against dust and water or any kind of liquid entrance. And second is it provides a strain relief for cable. And when we are going on a cable glands, the cable glands is coming on two basic material. One is plastic and other is metal. Under the metal, again, it is coming on brass, aluminum, stainless steel. So this is about the cable gland. So second question is what we have. So we have almost 1,340 parts we launch under the cable gland, and I would consider it's a kind of a very perfect solutions we are providing to our industrial customer. And those cable gland we have categorized into 4 categories. So start with standard cable gland, and when I say industrial customer, standard cable glands will cover almost like a 60% of customer demand. So in that we have released a plastic cable gland, polyamide material, then the standard brass cable gland, and we have released snap-in cable gland also. So those all are the standard cable gland which we have released. Second category I would consider as a specialized cable gland. So based on the different application, customer is asking a unique or specialized cable gland. So one of the example you see, it is RJ45 cable gland. These cable glands are used for a kind of patch cord. Wherever the data communication or data is getting transferred, customer is using the patch cord. So on that particular patch cord cable, these special glands are getting used. Second comes EMC cable gland. So some of the customer, they ask for the EMC protection. So for those applications, we have EMC2 and EMC4 cable gland. Under that, we have a very special range of metal EMC cable gland for the railways also. And the third very special category is stainless steel 303 cable gland. So this is mainly for food and beverage industrial customers. So we have a very special stainless steel glands are available. And the third range is supporting components like a plugs, drain plugs, ventilation plug, and some lock nuts and other accessories also we are providing, which is called as a supporting cable gland components. So, and the fourth category when you come, that shows as a cable entry plate. So what is the cable entry plate? So there are the customer who's using the multiple cable glands on the their particular cabinet, and they wanted to avoid those particular multiple cable gland, and they wanted to reduce their particular cabinet. So for those kind of application, this is a perfect solution where they can avoid multiple glands and they can reduce their cabinet size. So this is all about the cable gland what we have. So the second question, where this particular cable glands is used. So I just try to give you some high level of insight in terms of the application, focused application. And there are the 3 categories you see. 1 dot is low business potential or low uses. 2 dot is medium business potential or medium uses. And 3 is high business potential, high uses. So specifically, when you see motion and drive, it is very low business potential of the cable glands are available. Industrial robotics, medium applications, or there are the good requirements, but not a very high value in the market. When you go automation control, again, it's a very low business, low potentials available for the cable glands. When you see lighting industry, warehouse automation, semiconductor manufacturing equipment, you will have a very high business potential. Huge quantity of cable glands are used. And then automation sensor, again, very low requirements are there. In the next 3 category, any kind of EV, solar, battery management system, railway, and data center. In these all categories, there is a huge number of glands are used. It's a very big market available for the particular gland. And when we say market available for the gland, it makes plastic as well as the metal. So I would like to allow Vincent to give you some kind of insight application wise and which product is best suitable for which particular application, and he will give you some kind of examples to have a clear understanding.
What to recommend to who. So basically, to enter into this portfolio, there is few questions or about the environment, and one key is to understand what are the constraints in the environment of the control cabinets. So we have a different situation we have identified. So let's say inside a building where you have risk. So it can be mechanical risk or pollution risk. So basically we are making a discrimination between those, and this will be a part of the selection that will be done. So you can be inside with low risk, either pollution or mechanical. You can be inside with high mechanical risk and also a certain degree of pollution. And then you can be outside but with low risk in terms of mechanics and pollution from outside. And same thing, maximum risk is mechanical risk, pollution risk, and being outside. And last one is electromagnetic, when you have interferences coming from different equipments, then you will need a proper protection. So all this will go into all the details. We have made a lot of pictures to let you understand, because that's the best to understand the applications and selection. So when you are inside, when we mean that there is low mechanical risk, is when the cable arrives below the cabinet and it's protected. So you see here there is some kind of a protection. It's difficulty to, let's say, reach those zones, so there is no real risk that somebody with a tool damage the plastic parts, or there is no moving elements close to the panel, and then you see this motor, which is fully metal, has plastic glands because it's maybe in locations where there's not so many people, there is no danger to damage. So you see that you can get plastic even if you're on small DC motors or AC motors. Here, same thing, you have a protected area on the top here, small boxes, then you will use, in this case, polyamide plastic glands, which are perfectly doing the job. And most of them, in terms of pollution, can go in high degrees of protection, IP68, so against different pollution of dust, fluid, so no problem. Now, if you are, this is also another solution, motor starting solution, where you're in a clean room, so there is no particular problems to use that. Now we are still inside a building, but now the risk increased mechanically. Why? Because sometimes, for example, you are on the side here, so the weight of cable can be quite a problem. Then you also have a possibility that moving parts, you have people in the nearby, you are on the side, so you have better risk to hit with something. Maybe it can be a pallet, it can be a tool or whatever. Here you see you have production machine where you have a lot of movement, robots for sure where you have a lot of movement, and then you will see that we have metal cable gland being used in all these locations preferably. Then when you are also in an environment where you have food industry, which is particular, so you see that we are using stainless steel clamp or sometimes plates, as Bishek was showing here. Which is also a possibility, and this is where you will need specific requirements. So same thing here, what is recommended is brass, because it will be much more resistant than plastic for sure against mechanical aggressions, and then you will have the same degree of protection in terms of fluid. So you'll find this application mostly on tool, machine tooling, robots, chemical and food industry. This is where you will find this brass cable gland being used mostly. Now, if you are going outside, but we have low mechanical risk, so typically that's something you can find in HVAC, where you have panel on the roof, so not so many people are going there. Solar inverters, combiner box, all these are installed in protected areas, so there is no real risk. So here again, you will find appearing some plastic elements. What has to be noticed is that in this case you will need eventually what you call ventilation caps and drains. So these are specific cable glands that allow to equalize the pressure within the panel between outside and inside to avoid the penetration and also the condensation and the moisture to stay into the panel. So the ventilation is actually creating this circulation of pressure between the two, and then the drain, if there are some humidity because of the temperature differences, then it helps to drain and to evacuate the water at the bottom of the panel. So these are all things you can use when you are outside because you have higher temperature differences. Then if you are outside and with mechanical risk, so again you will find the metal and brass clamp, but you will have also metal ventilation caps, metal drains, and then you will find a lot on compressors, HVAC, large engine, pumps, rail box, which are inside of track. So everything which is, very exposed, in this case the metal, will be a security for the use. Another one here to finish on CEM. So CEM is usually when you have inverters. Inverters are a good source of creation of CEM noise on the line. So that's why most of the time everything is shielded, all the cables. And when you have shielded cable, you need also the shielded cable glands that goes with it to make sure that you are not introducing noise inside the cabinet. And that's why you will use this special EMC series, where if you're in the railway, because you have vibration, but also as every time you have a transformer, every time you transform the energy, then you will at some point need this kind of protection. Servo motors, drive, data centers are typically the application for it. Then here we'll just finish quickly. It's an overview of how and the application. So basically we'll say that brass has a large scope of application. Polyamide also, but not when you are in a rail or motor pumps, or outside you have mechanical risk and food and beverage. And then you have some specific ones, EMC applications and hygienic, which are really used in specific environments.
The next product is Ferrules. Ferrules are widely used in industry to terminate flexible and standard wire, both kind of wire. Primary function is to secure stand within crimp tube to avoid a bend or spread apart. So the key feature when we are seeing on a ferrule, reduce the contact resistance between the wire and conductor, or means collector, and even help to cut down the oxidation. If you see the photographs of the ferrule, means there is a one wire on the top, gray color, and the other with the ferrule crimp. So customer can insert the wire like the top on the terminal blocks, but the problem is when they insert, there might be a chance the stand can damage. Few of the stand may damage, get break, or what will happen is few of the stand will get in contact with the next contacts of the terminal block. So due to this, there might be a chance that short circuiting may happen. So the solution is just do the crimping of ferrule and such kind of problem will get avoided. So when we know about the ferrule, second question is what we have. We have a single ferrule, single insert wire insert ferrule, and twin wire insert ferrule. So single wire ferrule, we have a range from 0.34 to 50 mm square, and when customer need to insert two wire, for that also we have a range from 0.5 to 6 mm square. So we are offering a very much complete solutions to our customer. Second question, we know about this ferrule, how the ferrule will get selected when any of the application. So very much clear, we need to check cable size, then we need to check whether it is insulated or non-insulated ferrule customer is looking for. As you can see, the left side it's a non-insulated ferrule and the right side is an insulated ferrule. Then we need to check with customer what is the ferrule pin length they are looking for, which is very important. Then ferrule for single wire or double wire. And the last is we need to check the color of insulation of the ferrule. T value proposition, when we are seeing different selling proposition, we are providing a DIN and fence color coding plastic sleeve, provide both single and twin ferrule, and we are releasing a product with global compliance UL, ROS, CSA. So it's a kind of a complete solutions what we are giving it to customer. Next question will come, where this particular ferrules are used. So start with what is the challenge for the customer when they are coming on selection of this particular ferrule. Finding UL or CSA compliance product. Sometimes customer may have UL, they may get it UL ferrule, but they may not get a CSA. So such kind of challenge we'll be having. Find a supplier who have a single and twin both wire option available on both DIN and Finch color coding ferrule. So what will happen is the customer may use different color coded ferrules. So as we have a DIN and Finch both, so we are providing a wide range of color coding on the ferrules. The very big pain point is customer buy a terminal block from one supplier and ferrule from other supplier, and sometimes find a difficulty on the fitment. So this is the pain point or challenge of the customer when they are coming on the ferrule selection. The application I have just highlighted here. After this particular webinar, we will share this particular file where I have highlighted application-wise which area, what is the potential of the ferrule market. And very important is, as we are selling a terminal block a lot, and we are not focusing or selling a complete solution to the customers like a ferrule. So what is happening? Customer is buying a terminal block from us and buying a ferrule from any other supplier. We can offer to our customer whenever we are buying a terminal blocks, as this particular ferrule is must use kind of product. So they can, we can offer it, here is a terminal block and this is a ferrule. You can take it. No need to go to any other supplier for the ferrule. For SNK series of the terminal blocks, you can see we already updated our catalog, and you will get it, the ferrule part number, suitable ferrule part number on that particular catalog as well. And those ferrules are well tested and approved by our engineering lab. So this is the kind of the solutions we are providing it on the ferrules.
So I just want to give you a quick overview of 1.4 we're finding our products. So ENTRELEC landing page is roughly dedicated to our thermal blocks, but if you want to find all the products that we talked today, like cable glands, some of the identification which are dedicated to the electrical markets, you can just type into the filter on the top ENTRELEC, and then you will have all the 5,000 products that fall into the ENTRELEC portfolio. So that's well to be noticed. And that's one good point. If you have another also tool, I will give you the link afterwards, and with all the presentation and the recordings. We call ENTRELEC the essential ENTRELEC, and same thing here, we regroup all the connection products, identification products, and also wire, cable and wire management, where you will be able to retrieve, let's say, a catalog page and the promotional documents for that. So it's a condensed catalog, but you have everything in hands to select and order the product.